Okay, thank you very much. Very nice to see you. Bon dia. Actually, I was here about 15 years ago with the same topic, Korea-Latin America economic relations. But at that time, I think it was the same building, but I do not remember which floor it was. At that time, there were only 15 people in the audience. Now I would count about 90 people here. What's the difference? Is that because of Professor Gilmar Maciero's ability, or because of the higher or strengthened relationship between Brazil and Korea and Brazil and Asia? Yeah, I think because of both regions. Congratulations, Gilmar. Actually, Gilmar is one of my best friends in Brazil, and he is a very hard-working Brazilian professor. He may be able to present all these topics to you, but I think you needed to prove, you need to have a proof. Koreans speaking the same topic. Anyway, today I have this topic, Korea economic. He gave me this topic, all right? Korea's economic and trade relations with Latin America, particularly with Brazil. Some part of my presentation may repeat with Dr. Jung's presentation, so I'll try to skip and I'll try to be brief to make it to the timetable. This is one of the main features of Korea's trade trend. This is the recent trend. Very briefly speaking, Korea's trade partners have been changed from industrialized countries or developed countries, such as Japan and US, United States, and European countries, to developing countries. As of 2001, the weight of trade with developing countries overpassed the weight of trade with developed countries. China and some Asian countries and Latin American countries became major actors in Korea's trade picture. And another feature is the components of goods Korea's are exporting have been also changed. Yes, it can be a big difference if you compare with 1960s or 1970s export items, but in most prominently in recent years, more IT-focused products, electronics and semiconductor and information technology products have been the heaviest portion of Korea's export in recent years. Major trading partners, among other Latin American countries, Brazil and Mexico are in the top 15. And last year, Brazil became in the top 10 export destination for Korea. This is the components of 10 top export items of Korea. For example, in 1970s, you can see textiles, plywood, wigs, iron ore. So very light industry or some primary industries. But if you see 2010, semiconductor, ships, automobile, petrochemical products, video apparatus, wireless telecom, parts of automobile, or heavy industry or IT-focused products. So, in very briefly, in 1960s, Korea were exporting primary goods, 1970s, light manufacturing goods, and 1980s, heavy chemical goods, and since 1990s, Korea has been exporting capital and technology-intensive IT or new technology goods. These are the product composition. For example, 2010, 97.6% are industrial products. Out of them, 91.2% are heavy industrial, including IT. But there has not been remarkable change in import patterns. 2010, still Korea depend upon raw materials for export purpose to 27.2, for domestic consumption purpose 32.8. Some capital goods stand about 30% in total. How much important Latin American markets to Korea? Because Latin American market is important to Korea because Latin American economies are pretty much activated in recent years. This is the growth rate in recent years. 2007, 5.8%, and then 4.2%, and then 2009, because of the global recession, minus 1.6%, but relatively speaking, it was very small recession, right? If you compare with industrialized countries and other regions, economic performance, it was a very good performance. 2010, 6.2%, and 2011, 4.5%. So the recent dynamism, the recent dynamics of economic development in this region suggests a very high importance for Korea's economy, particularly because Korean economy is exporting economy, so your partner's economic performance is very important. And population growth and GDP size, now GDP per capita is about $11,000. It is higher than any other developing regions in Asia or Africa, Middle Eastern, and Eastern European, some Central Asian countries. And FDI, about 10%. FDIs in Latin America accounts for about 10% out of the total FDIs. And this region has a very important strategic resources like nickel, zinc, iron, copper, etc. Because Korea is very poor country in natural resources. So we have to depend on natural resources overseas. So as far as Latin America is abundant in natural resources, this market is very important to us. Particularly for petroleum reserve, you have 17% of the total petrol reserve. In production, about 90%. And in recent years, as far as you have a high level of foreign reserves, you begin to invest in infrastructure. Long time absent since 1970s. So as far as you are investing in mega infrastructure projects, this market is again very important to Korean industries. The trend of Korea-Latin America trade relations. Korean exports to this region, Latin America, accounts for about 7%, in other words, higher than 7%. Last year, it was 7.2%. This is very high percentage. I will show you later on the graph. And the trade with Latin America has grown very fast in recent years, annual 22%. And major items, these again, major import items. So this implies that still the trade relationship between Korea and Latin America is typical inter-industrial relations. You have to improve this kind of relationship. You have to change this relationship from inter-industrial to intra-industrial by expanding investments, by expanding intra-foreign relationship. Investments, Korea's investment in this region in Latin America accounts for about 7.7% out of the total Korea's overseas investments. On the other hand, inbound from Latin America to Korea investments accounts about 4% out of the total inbound investment. New paradigm, I mean, not only trade and investment relations. These years, Korea's economic relations with Latin America entered a new phase. In other words, the relationship has expanded to financial and to aid, foreign aid, and FTA, policy network. One most important feature in financial cooperation is represented by Korea's joining IDB, Inter-American Development Bank. Japan had been a very important partner in IDB as the only Asian partner. Sometimes they include Israel. So there were two Asian members in IDB, but you know there are a lot of. It is questionable to count Israel as one Asian partner. But in recent years, Korea became a full member of IDB officially as of March 2005, but it was admitted in 2004. And Korea runs a Korea Trust Fund of this size to help facilitate trade and investment relations between Korea and Latin America within the framework of Inter-American Development Bank. And CABE is Central American Bank of Economic Integration. It is also still under study, Korea's admission in this sub-regional financial bank. And ODA, Official Development Aid, Official Development Assistance. Korea became a member of OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, as of 1996. And in 2009, Korea became a member of DAC, the Development Assistance Committee. This is the main core organization of foreign aid. So when Korea entered DAC, Korea committed itself to increasing its ODA size from, at that time, 0.15%, 0.10% to increase to 0.15% out of the gross national income. And currently, it has reached about 0.11%. So annually, the total amount of annual ODA size has been increasing very fast, more than 10%, about 10% increase. And now ODA to Latin American economies amount about 7 or higher than 7% out of total Korea's ODA. EDCF is Economic Development Cooperation Fund, also accounts for about 7% out of total EDCF fund. And KSP is a knowledge sharing program. It is a kind of consulting program. I also participated in one consulting KSP program in aiding Colombia's regional economic development plan. So with Korea's fast growth experiences, we are participating in formulating policy design in several Latin American developing countries. And as far as I understand, the main institution in foreign aid is KOICA, Korea International Cooperation Agency, and this agency has an agreement with Brazilian partner ABC, right? Brazilian Agency of Cooperation. So ABC and KOICA collaborate to help the neighboring Latin American countries by the joint program. And FTA, Free Trade Agreement. You have now Customs Union framework within the framework of Mercosur with your neighboring countries. And you have FTA with South Africa and India and some Israel and some other partners. Korea has a FTA relationship with several Latin American countries, beginning with Chile and then Peru. And a couple of months ago, Korea and Colombian negotiators finally concluded their negotiation, and it will be very soon. It will be passed by the two congresses, and still has not concluded, the negotiation has not concluded with Mexico, and Korea-Mercosur FTA negotiation or FTA deals actually have not started yet. It is one future agenda. Okay, as you can see, this is red bar is Korea's export to Latin America, and blue bar is Korea's import from Latin America. There are a large difference between exports and imports, but anyway, the trend of growth, you can see it is remarkable. As I told you, Korea 2010 it was 7.6, and 2011 it was 7.2%. This means the portion of Korea's exports to Latin America out of its total export to the world, right? So Korea's total Latin America export accounts for about 7.6% as of 2010 out of its total exports to the world. It is the highest in Asia. So this means Latin American market is most important to Korea among other Latin American, Asian economies. As you can see, China, though yes, the volume size, China will be the highest, but Latin American, the exports to Latin America is more important to Korea than to China for their economies. This is very similar to Spain. Spain's export focus to Latin America is highest among other European countries. So again, Latin American market is more important to Korea than to any other Asian countries, and export to Latin America is more important to Spain than to any other European countries. I will just skip. Korea's trade with Brazil. Again, Korea's export to Brazil in recent years has been very dynamic. 36% annual growth since 2004, thanks to Brazil's economic good performance, I would say. And if you compare this performance with other countries in Latin America, it's 20.3% in recent years, but and all the world 14.8%. So the Brazil trade with Brazil, particularly export with Brazil, is more dynamic than any other partners for Korea. And so Brazil became top 10 export destination last year, and import also was very fast, 20.5% annual growth. But again, the typical trade relationship, exporting industrial goods and importing primary goods. Yes, Brazil also export and produce a lot of manufactured goods, so that means you have a lot of realms, a lot of areas, a lot of sectors to explore, to activate, to stimulate further intra-industrial relationship. And items, the focus on vehicle and mobile phones are prominent, as you know. And top 15 export items account for 86% last year, from 76%, increased from 76%. That means items have been concentrated on some particular items. Import items, top 15, account for 96% or so. That means you will have a lot of more items to explore to facilitate trade between Korea and Brazil. So this is the red is Korea's export to Brazil, and blue also is Brazil's export to Korea. So yes, there is some difference between exports and imports, but still dynamics there. Export items, again, this is a comparison with other Mercosur members. But again, Korea's export to Brazil or other Mercosur members concentrate on, first of all, machinery. Machinery include vehicles, automobiles. So machinery, electronic goods, iron ore, iron and metals, so processed items, and petrochemicals. For Korean firms who are competitors in this market, other Korean companies and local companies and Chinese companies and European companies are competitors for Korea. This is the trend of Korea's FDI, foreign direct investments in Latin America. This is the scale for the world investment in Latin America. This is the scale for Korea's investment in Latin America. Even though there are a lot of big difference between the scale, the trend, you can see the trend. Blue line is Korea's FDI to Latin America. Long time before, the trend was very slow, Korea's investment in Latin America. But these years, the trend is very similar to world investment. So that means Korea's awareness of Latin American market is the same level to the world. This is the portion of Korea's FDI in this region. Now, for some year, it was very high. Some cases were suspicious because a lot of fund went to tax havens in the Caribbean. But anyway, these years is moderately stable, about 8% out of the total Korea's overseas investment. Yes, Korea's major investment go to Asia, particularly to China, because Korea is one of the top 3 investor in China, particularly 2001 until 2005, Korea was the #1 investor in China. But these years, because of certain uncertainties in the financial market in China, a lot of Korean firms withdrew from China, going to Vietnam and Indonesia. But anyway, still remains a very important investor in Chinese market. After Asia, Korea's investors go to Europe and then North America, particularly United States, and then Latin America. But when you compare the energy sector, Korea's investment go to North America first, and then Asia, and then Europe, and then Latin America. These are the sector distribution. Again, Korea's major investment sectors in Latin America is manufacturing sector, and then financial insurance and mining sector. Korea's FDIs in Brazil. These years, again, this is very dynamic. Annual investment, 2010, for the first time, overpassed $1 billion, 1,000 million, $1 billion line. And last year, it again grew to become $1.1 billion, 1,001 million dollars. So Brazil became #8 largest overseas direct investment destination for Korean firms. And the sectors, yes, mining and manufacturing are the major sectors. If you try to understand the purpose, investors' purpose in investing in Brazil, there are several different strategies. As far as you know, you are majoring in economics and business administration. These are strategies of investors. They may have market-seeking strategies and natural resources-seeking strategies and efficiency-seeking and R&D. For market-seeking strategies, LG, Samsung, and vehicles, Hyundai, and their partners, Mando, Hyosung, and heavy equipment, Doosan, Hyundai Heavy Industries, they are investing in Brazil for their own purpose, for market seeking, to explore markets in Brazil. And some of the companies, POSCO, Dongguk Steel, particularly they are investing in Ceará state. They are seeking natural resources, iron ore, and SK Energy, they are seeking petroleum, and CJ, they are seeking sugar cane to process for some other important products. And LG, Samsung, and CJ, they also are seeking efficiency because of the trade regime, facilitation, and all these kind of so taking advantage of the regulation and regimes, they are investing in this market. And LG Samsung also, they are investing for R&D purpose. Okay, what kind of challenges ahead for Korea and Latin America and Brazil? Yeah, still, I think for Latin America, you have a challenge to still diversify trade relationship. I was very happy to see a couple of years ago, I published an article, a economy article with analysis of trade structures of Latin America. Very briefly speaking, focusing on traditional markets such as European countries and United States, and new markets, Asian markets, and depending on a single market or diversified market. Brazil was a very good position, diversifying and exploring Asian market. So only two major countries in Latin America, Brazil and Peru, were in this category: diversified exports and exploring new markets, not as well as traditional markets. So in other words, Asia became a very important market to Brazil in recent years, China particularly, and also not only European and US and Latin American markets, but also Asian markets became major partners to Brazil. So it was a very good composition, very good structure, trade structure in recent years has been made. And still, you have to explore market potential in the Asian markets, which is a dynamic market out of the total world. And you need to search for a creative trade regime, such as free trade agreement. For Korea, still we need to explore resources outsourcing and market infrastructure opportunities, and still Korean companies, manufacturing companies, have to compete with its competitors. This is FTA network. Korea has FTA free trade agreements with these partners. Korea has an FTA with the United States, European Union, ASEAN countries, Chile, Peru, Singapore, and EFTA, European Free Trade Association, and India, and recently concluded free trade negotiations with Colombia and Turkey, so it will be effective very soon, and still negotiating these partners, and these are on the agenda. So this is the FTA network for Korea, and Korea now is the third largest FTA network in the world. So for an exporting economy, this kind of policy framework is very important. Korea's FTA with Latin American countries, as I told you, it was not easy for Korea because agricultural sector was protesting that policy, but finally we resolved it. So we launched first FTA with Chile, 2004, and then we negotiated, among other Latin American countries. We began negotiating with Mexico, but in Mexico, manufacturing sectors are very resistant. So still it is stalemated, deadlocked. And Peru, 2010 signed, and later the following year it went into effect. And Colombia recently concluded. And Central American countries want to negotiate FTA with Korea, still not scheduled. Mercosur, also we wanted to negotiate, but major manufacturing sectors are resistant, particularly in Brazil and some in Argentina. I will tell you later a little bit more. This is an example of the performance of free trade with Latin American partner. This is the case of Chile. The bar shows the share, the import share out of the total Latin American trade. Chile's Chile's export to Korea out of the total Latin American export to Korea accounts for about 30% in recent years. It is more dynamic after the after the FTA went into effect as of 2004. And the graph, the lines show the total volume, Chilean imports from Chile and export to Chile. So when we have FTA relationship with the Latin American market, particularly with Chile, the growth of trade volume were very dynamic, as you can see. It's one example. Let me skip. So this is one of the agenda for Korea, Brazil, or Korea-Mercosur trade relationship. Korea is very much interested in FTA because of the market size and because of the regionalism in this region, and also because of the more stable investment in Mercosur countries. Between Korea and Mercosur, there was a joint study for trade agreement in 2004, from 2004 till December 2006, and later there was some institutional, intergovernmental arrangements to go further, but still that they have not reached the start to negotiate FTA. Why? It was not easy process. You know, this is a customs union. So Korea needs to negotiate not only with Brazil, but also with other 3 members, but now 4 members, including Venezuela. And you do not have a supranational entity like in the European Union. They have a supranational entity, so you just negotiate 1 + 1, but in this case 1 + 5, right? And already you have a lot of experiences, negotiation with United States within the framework of FTAA, Free Trade Area of the Americas, and negotiating with the European Union. Okay, they were not successful. And with India and Israel, it was, on the other hand, it was promoted by political sense. So we need to find some dynamism. Anyway, the current stage for Korea FTA, Mercosur FTA is at the joint, it was completed joint study, but now you have, as of July 2009, you have Memorandum of Understanding for the establishment of a joint consultative group to promote trade and investment. So long memorandum. What is the purpose? Let's study further, and let's study trade agreement possibilities, and let's study policy recommendation. But there has not been news from coming out of this memorandum, unfortunately, in recent years. What kind of positions they have? Uruguay, very positive among other 4 members, and Paraguay is questionable. In recent years, they have a political upheaval anyway. But Brazil, manufacturing sectors are resistant. Particularly, these sectors are resistant. For Korea, yes, agricultural sector will be resistant, and some clothing sectors are resistant. Argentina, it is not easy to understand their position. Sometimes they were positive and sometimes negative, so very, very inconsistent, unfortunately. Anyway, now, since the global financial crisis, protectionism, there is a protectionism controversy, so we need to have kind of a thrust through some kind of trade agreements for more windows, more opportunities for cooperation. Muito obrigado.